Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Piercy, Vice President of Communications and Engagement here at Allen Institute, and want to say thank you all for joining us this evening as we celebrate the opening of our Education Lab. It's been a long time coming. I also want to say thank you to our Board and Education Advisory Committee members who are here with us today, to our events team for putting this all together for us, to our facilities, operations, and project management team who did all the things behind the scenes to make the lab come to life, to our education and engagement team for their tireless work and dedication to our education program and creating quality education in science for students across the region, to our President and CEO, Rui Costa, who in my first conversation with him a little more than 3 years ago said, we need a really strong education program. So here we are. And finally, I want to express our deepest gratitude to our co-founder and board chair, Jody Allen, for her wisdom, her leadership, and support of the Allen Institute and science education. All of us can probably think back to a time when we had that first spark of curiosity or awe that only science can create for us. I remember mine really well. It happened when I was a third grade student in Mrs. Wilson's class at Mary Purcell Elementary. And the spring of 1982, our class all crammed into a big yellow school bus and made the 90-minute journey from Sedro-Woolley to Seattle to a place less than a mile from here, the Pacific Science Center, who are great collaborators of ours now. And there were two things that blew my mind that day. The first of which was, how could a beach ball be held by a column of air that was blowing out of this strange traffic cone contraption? And second, how was it that my friend Jason Cole could stand 70 feet away from me, facing away from me, and talking to this parabolic dish thing, and I could hear him whispering? It blew my mind. And that hands-on science learning experience from that day is still with me. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And that's what's magical about science. I didn't go on to become a scientist, but the curiosity that was sparked by that served me well as a journalist and now as a science communicator. You know, here at the Allen Institute, we're passionate about open science. We take on really large-scale projects, moonshot-style projects, and we share all of our data, tools, resources, and knowledge with the world to make it better. And we're equally passionate about science education. And that's not only to nurture the next generation of scientists who will someday come and work here, but really for society at large, because science matters to all of us. And it's why I'm really happy to be here today to launch our education lab, located up on the 6th floor, 1,300 square foot of lab that will really serve as a regional hub for students and educators and scientists to come and have authentic, hands-on learning experiences with the Allen Institute's open science resources and all of the cutting-edge research that happens here. So in a few minutes, all of us will go upstairs. We'll get to have a ribbon cutting. We'll get to tour the lab. But first, we're going to have a panel discussion led by Rui Costa, our president and CEO. He'll be joined by our education and engagement manager, Caitlin Casimo, as well as Jeannie Chowning, the Associate VP of Science Education at Fred Hutch, and Susan Russell, a biology and biotechnology teacher at Linwood High School. So please join me in welcoming our panel to the stage for a discussion about our science programming, science education, and the opportunity that lies ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to see all of you here. It's an emotional day, as Rob mentioned. This is a dream, and when you see that the team actually did it to this morning, I was saying when I saw the group that was visiting there, it was a really emotional moment, and when it feels right, it feels right. And so I'd like to start a discussion with our panel. First of all, thank you all for being here. And maybe I start with you, Caitlin. So we have open science, as we heard from Rob here. And how does our institute's education program intersect with this open science philosophy?
So the things that we do in the lab are hands-on experiences that take students from their classroom experience, from the things that they can experience with their own two hands, into the vast world of modern biology, which is massive. It's computational. It is abstract, so they can connect the dots through their experiences with us, from doing a lab activity to learning about what current research it connects to going on our websites and experiencing the open science that then can lead them directly to a novel discovery. It's really exciting to be able to generate those opportunities for students to have that authentic research experience. It's uncommon for students to get that really early in their career and have the impact that that thrill of discovery can make. So it's really exciting for us to be able to, even outside of the lab as well, to have those opportunities for students that can really help them feel like they are a scientist and they belong here.
Absolutely, and you know, you touch on this point of we actually share the science openly, but doing the physicality of doing things in terms of both the emotion and the learning that it causes, but also the engagement is very different. So combining both things probably results in an experience where people then are curious to go into the open data sets because they understand where it came from. And I know this is also a dream of yours to have this education lab. What do you see as success for the lab, for the program? Where are things that excite you?
Yeah, we are in a position to generate some really unique experiences for the participants in our programs. And in the lab, you're going to be hearing a lot today about what we do with students, but one of the main pillars of our work is also working with educators so that they can take what they've learned with us and spread it to all of their students in all of their classes. So to be able to foster those authentic hands-on experiences that foster data literacy, that foster excitement about science, awareness of science careers, and really to be able to be a scientist. That's what's important to us, and to give the students and the teachers and the scientists the tools they need to make that happen. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you know, as you all are seeing, science education is important, but it takes a village, so it doesn't happen only here. It takes an ecosystem. We've been quite fortunate, even locally, to have good partners that are like-minded in our approach for these. And so, Jeannie, at the Fred Hutch, you know, you have this science education partnership program that also works closely with high schools teachers, which I love because it's not for them, it's with them. Like
Yes,
folks build the
exactly.
curriculum,
Partners.
which is something so obvious, but that we all have failed to realize so often in science. So what are some of the challenges that you think educators face and that programs like yours, theirs, or other programs can help?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I'm really honored to be on this panel and to share a little bit about our work. The Science Education Partnership, our program for teachers at Fred Hutch, has been in existence almost 35 years. So we work with teachers for a long time. Over 600 teachers have gone through. Some of the teachers here in the audience have also been through the program. Let me just describe it briefly, and then I'll talk about the challenges. So it's 3 weeks in the summer, 1 week is in a research lab. The other 2 weeks are learning about molecular biology tools and learning about our open source curriculum and bonding with each other. Teachers like to meet like-minded teachers. And afterwards, though, we continue the support. And so I think one of the big challenges, and I know this because I used to be a SEP teacher myself. I used to actually work at Juanita High School, who I understand was a school that was here today. So that's also kind of cool. Yeah, I went through the program in 1995, and what I wanted to do was borrow the equipment. So we loan equipment, and I didn't have that in my school. So that was my original reason. So I think we can provide resources for teachers, and so that can be both material, like equipment, but other kinds of resources as well. The other thing is the relationships, right? So actually, I wanted to get the equipment, but the thing that lasted the longest for me was the relationships. And I'm still close colleagues with some of the people that went through the program with me. And I also went on to meet a lot of scientists and work in their labs, and that was really important. So I think resources, relationships, and the last thing is this real science piece, where, you know, I think some teachers have research experience in their background, but not everyone does. And so if they haven't, sometimes just going through school and then going back into a science classroom without having the experience of like, oh, you know, we're gonna need to try this experiment over and over again, and you know, we need to be inventive and resourceful and resilient and keep asking that question that's at the edge of our understanding. That understanding what real science is like is also really important for teachers, I think. And one of the challenges that we've faced is kind of like, how do we help teachers learn about the culture and bring that back into their classroom, support them in that.
Absolutely. And, you know, interestingly enough, and for those of you, next week,
Yes.
you're also finishing the renovations and opening your own teaching lab just across. So that's
Yes.
exciting.
It is exciting.
So
and
what you already mentioned some of the opportunities.
Yes.
So what are you looking forward there and in general with this network of labs?
Yeah, I mean, I think you talked about ecosystem earlier, and we have, you know, our colleague from Institute of Systems Biology is here too, and we really work closely together because it is so important, especially locally, to make sure that we have local talent and folks who are interested in becoming, you know, the next generation of scientists, but also that are just going to be able to support and trust science and understand science. And so to open up spaces to make that possible, just so people have not the wall, right, between science and the rest of the world. Like, can we break down that wall and have those conversations, and really help people see why science is important and what scientists actually do.
Absolutely.
Part of what we do with Open Science is that you don't have to take our word for it.
Right.
You can go in there and see it yourself, and that can generate a large feeling of trust that, you know, we're not just saying, you know, just believe me. We're bringing students into that process.
Yeah, yeah.
And science literacy and analytical thinking help everyone. And I think teachers, right, Susan, they care about that, right? When you're teaching, of course, you may have the next scientist in your class that year, but even if they are not, they are curious minds that would love to learn more. And I know you've brought students here to visit the Institute and, of course, to the Hutch. What's their reaction and how does it impact their attitudes? What do you see that's different when you take them out and say, we're going to visit a research place and we're going to do some things hands-on in the place where scientists are doing this?
So yes, I've had an opportunity to bring students here in the past, and then I will have an opportunity to bring them here again next week with the lab being open. So I'm really excited about that, and they're really excited about that. And I don't think you can, you know, overstate how important or powerful these opportunities are for students. These are, you know, world institutions in our backyard, and to be able to bring students, you know, to see that connection between where they are. We take a bus, we're pretty close to this amazing science that's being done, so we're here on site. They get to connect to the spaces where science is being done. they can see the science being done, they can talk to the scientists who are doing the work, and now the addition is that they get to do some of the science here on site as well. So those are really powerful. And I could do any one of those things. I could bring someone into my classroom. That would be really powerful. We can do some hands-on things. That's powerful. But you have it all packaged together here with, being on site, having the scientists, students can see people, a variety of backgrounds. It will really dispel some of their conceptions of who they think scientists are, backgrounds, ages. A lot of times, scientists working in lab, it's pretty certain that they're going to see someone that's maybe not that much older than they are. They can kind of see that next step. And so I think that's really powerful too, that they're making a connection between where they currently are and where they could be. I do think also it just opens up. Students will see the things they know, or see themselves doing the things they know. So a nurse, a doctor, maybe a scientist if they've seen something on TV, but I don't know if anyone has, they've ever seen science in action. So being able to experience that firsthand is really powerful too. As a teacher, I think it's my job to expose them to things, and this is just a tool, a really powerful tool for me as a teacher to open up ideas for them to see what's possible in their futures.
And Susan, in this type of work where you also then, as part of the teachers program, you actually influence what the programs are and what they produce versus a more, passive transmission of information. So how does it feel for a teacher, for example, to be involved in these things and to influence the programs that you then gonna use with your students? What's the experience from your perspective as well?
Yeah, if I'm understanding your question right, so as a teacher, just being able to influence like some of the things that happen here and, as they see, yeah, absolutely. We get to choose kind of some of the lessons that are aligned to what is appropriate for students and pick kind of what fits in to, our curriculum, but it's still something new that they get to experience. So that can be really powerful too.
And science changes so fast that one of the things I always think, I did experiments in my own high school. There were very few interested in science, so we could go into the labs and roam, but science evolves so fast that we don't even have always the latest equipment. So to have a few places that are always evolving where we can go is quite important. And now maybe we open up to all of you. And so we've talked here about this idea of open science and sharing everything, democratizing knowledge, and also education. So in the view of all of you, how can these things transform education, affect your teaching, affect the future of education at a time where education is again being challenged as very basic? I love science, but I'd have to say education starts even before where we are, and it's a more fundamental need and value. There's no science without education, I would say. So how does this influence and transform your work? I mean, this can go to all of you, and you can engage in a discussion with each other. I don't know who wants to start.
You look like you have thought. I have a couple thoughts. Well, so first is that I think it's really exciting for students to have access to the open data, so that they can explore with real data sets, and again, it's that kind of breaking down the wall piece. I also love, I really have to give you a lot of credit in the last 3 years what's happened at the Allen Institute in education, because you really built something special here, and to be able to collaborate together for the larger purpose of supporting education. That's another way that we're open with each other. So we had a teacher who went through Fred Hutch program, went on to do 2 summers of research with us, developed curriculum around the brain, and then came here during the school year to, be one of your teacher fellows. And I know there's a teacher fellow in the audience who's going to come to our program this summer. And so just having that for our community, I feel like we have a collective responsibility in academia, in research groups, in biotech, to really step up and work together for this greater purpose. And so being open with our sharing and our community is a big step of that.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to get to work with you in your program and with Claudia and the ISB program and with Amanda and Alex at SCRI, to build this local community of people who we all care about doing the same thing. We have similar perspectives, being at research institutes, to try to bring the really special things that we're doing here to push the boundaries of knowledge and help students feel like they're part of that.
I think the other part that's unique about this program and is having the open data part of it. Students, think about collecting data, but really where the bulk of a lot of research is in analyzing that data and having access to it, so that they have that entry point where they can see that same data that's collected and they can enter at that point as well, where a lot of the work is being done, where a bulk of the work is being done.
And that's true for students who don't go into science as much as for the students who do, that they can come out of programs like ours having worked with open science and feel confident interpreting data in their everyday lives, which is so important. Like, we're inundated with science data, with STEM more broadly, and that people are charged with figuring that out on their own. And that's really challenging if they don't have that foundation and that confidence that they can do that.
Yes, and I mean, to follow up on this, even beyond, how do you think these programs and these labs influence the future of science? But I'll take it a bit further. The future of society at large, and this idea of trusting knowledge or challenging knowledge, right? Because sometimes we as scientists don't speak clearly, are not transparent, or don't say things the way people should understand, and that comfort even in questioning. I'm sorry, but you said something, I don't understand exactly what you mean. Do you mean this or that? So how do you think these programs influence the future of science and the future of society in general? I don't know if you want to start,
I'll
Susan.
start,
As a
sure.
teacher,
As a
probably that's
exactly.
your motivation.
As a teacher, I think the future of science and the future of society is, our students and our young people. So these opportunities, again, I just can't state how powerful they can be to just reach and touch the students' lives.
Yeah, and I think it ripples out from teachers, right? So if you work with teachers, they work with students, but then the students might go home and talk with their family members over dinner, like, oh, I did this cool thing today. Did you know? And so it's creating that awareness broadly and increasing a reach of the understanding of science.
Yeah, science is society. Like, they're one and the same. They can't be separated. So to have students get to come experience it and take it into their everyday lives, hopefully with that understanding of the process and that feeling of transparency and the feeling of connectedness to open science is something that they can get from their time with us, and being able to connect the dots between their hands-on experiences and the data and understanding and feeling confident about it. And then what is it all for? Like, why do we do basic research? It's because eventually it helps us understand the world we live in, and it helps us help people.
Absolutely, and if you all think about it, education has been the great evolver of our societies. Education in the broad sense. Our brains actually have not evolved much in the last 10,000 years plus. No, it biologically, it's the same brain. Our digestive enzymes, but have evolved more. But every generation, we learn the history of the previous generation, and it's compounded. So it's an amazing effect. If we were biologically put back in that situation, nothing is in the biology, it's all in the multi and transgenerational education. So thank you. This is amazing. You know, my whole family, except for myself, the black sheep, they're all educators. And my grandparents, who had nothing, just believed education is the only way out. And so it's very emotional for me to be here in a day like today. I think I agree, we all agree with you that science does not happen without science education, and science education is important beyond forming future scientists. So thank you for all that you do. Please join me in thanking our panelists. So for our online audience, it's time to say bye-bye. And you'll have now a video of our education lab that will play online. For those of you here, we now can go up to the 6th floor and go do the ribbon cutting and visit the education lab. And on the back of your badges, there should be a color, and that color indicates your group for the tour. So thank you all, and see you all upstairs in a few minutes. Thank you.
Hi, it's Caitlin again, and I'm going to take you on a tour of our education lab. Let's go. Welcome to the Education Lab. This lab seats about 32 students or faculty for any of our programs that we're holding here in this facility. When students come on field trips to our lab, they experience hands-on wet lab activities that connect to the current research happening here at the Allen Institute. For example, we have an activity that focuses on the central dogma of biology, how you go from DNA to RNA to proteins that connects to our research on Alzheimer's disease. And we have an activity on fluorescence, how you can label biological samples to see specific parts of them more clearly, that connects to research in the Allen Institute for Cell Science. Here at the Allen Institute, a lot of our research involves taking images of cells or tissues. So it's important that students here in the lab also get to experience that type of research. We have a set of microscopes here where students can look at samples, much like our researchers do, and then also be able to look at the real research data that our scientists have collected that's openly available on our websites. In addition to those standard microscopes, we also have a couple of more advanced microscopes, which are more similar to what's used in our research settings. This enables students to use real research samples that our research teams are done with and to be able to look at their fluorescent labeling, such as in this tonsil provided by our immunology team. In addition to learning about current research and wet lab techniques, it's important for us to have students experience the complete picture of science when they visit the Allen Institute. So students experience proper PPE, just like they would wear if they were working in a research lab, and they also get to meet working scientists and other staff here at the Allen Institute. They hear about their career paths, what an average day is like, and what it means to be a person who works in science, whether or not they work in research. All of the careers here at the Allen Institute are important to making the research happen. Everything that we do here in the education program connects to the Allen Institute's open science mission, sharing data, tools, and other resources publicly for anyone to use in their work, whether it be for research or for learning. So in addition to all of the wet lab techniques that we have available to us here, we also have a class set of computers, so that after students have experienced a wet lab technique, they can get online and see the open research data that connects to that technique they just learned. Thanks for joining me on this tour of the Allen Institute's Education Lab. To learn more about our programs, apply for field trips, and more, visit alleninstitute.org/education.